The Ukrainian Air Force has just pulled off the unthinkable.
Russia's Black Sea Fleet suffered a crushing defeat at the hands of Ukraine despite not having encountered its own fleet at sea.
After just a few weeks of having the French Mirage 2000, the Ukrainian Air Force has managed to strike Russian battleships lingering around Crimea. The move comes just days after peace talks between Russia and Ukraine led to a limited ceasefire. But now, the use of these often outdated aircraft has proven effective on the battlefield. Overcoming Russian air defenses and ultimately wreaking havoc on more than $500 million of Russian military equipment and infrastructure.
The massive explosion sent a dark mushroom cloud into the sky. The massive blast took the entire region, forcing Russian authorities to declare a state of emergency.
Russia is in disbelief, and this could signal a turn of the tide in this long and unnecessary war. Let's break it down. Let's face it, for more than 3 years now, Russia has launched devastating attacks in Ukraine.
At least 4 people killed, at least 30 people injured, including, we understand, at least 1 child.
These kinds of scenes are now just another day for the media, and with millions of drones, it seemed almost impossible to stop. Once Ukraine manages to bring these attacks to a halt, the infamous cruise missile is launched, causing absolute devastation wherever it lands. Then, a little more than a month ago, this happened. Without a ton of media coverage, Ukraine began receiving French Mirage 2000 aircraft. Along with this equipment, Ukrainian pilots spent months training under French pilots until a few days ago, when it was finally time to unleash these 4th-generation monsters. The move, certainly something welcomed by Ukraine, faced a lot of criticism. Why would Ukraine be given inefficient and old equipment if the West wants them to win against Russia? Little did everyone know just how capable these fighters are. In a deadly strike on Crimea, Ukraine managed to not only outclass Russian air defenses, but also use these aircraft as a way of deterring most of Russia's incoming drones. These drone barrages often consist of the Shahed 136/131, Lancet, and Orlan 10 drones, which have been used throughout the war as a way of causing havoc in Ukraine, especially the power grid and various military installations. However, months of pleading and exhausting its Patriot missile systems, and France has finally sent a few of its Mirage 2000 aircraft, which went on a spree of destruction. What actually rattled the Kremlin is the fact that these aircraft circumvented Russian S-300 and S-400 defense systems, allowing them to drop some of the largest barrages of ordnance in recent history of this war. The big question is exactly how they did this, and how did they manage to use this fighter to cause such damage, especially given the fact that they are nearly 5 decades old. How did they manage to turn the tide of the war, rendering Russian cruise missiles almost useless? What does this mean for the war going forward? And how did they manage to take out Russian warships in Crimea? Stay tuned to find out. Make sure to subscribe to our channel for your daily military report. Since the pause of aid to Ukraine, the Kremlin has ramped up its attacks on Ukraine. In the early hours of March 7th, the Kremlin launched more than 60 missiles and around 200 drones into Ukraine. This was one of the largest attacks on Ukraine in the last 12 months. However, it didn't go as planned for the Kremlin. As is the natural course of action, anti-air batteries, combined with Ukrainian drones and the powerful US Patriot system, vastly reduced the number of ordnance that would actually hit its target. However, this was not the biggest focal point, with many military experts turning their attention to the air. Ukraine used its brand new Dassault Mirage 2000 aircraft in a defensive capacity to further reduce the number of drones and missiles that would come close to hitting civilian and military infrastructure. Moreover, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky turned to social media following the attacks. He confirmed that, thanks to these Mirage aircraft, Ukraine could take out almost all cruise missiles sent by Russia. Not only did this significantly reduce the possible destruction, but it shocked the world, with questions like how this is even possible being on the lips of many military experts. Flanking these Mirage 2000s is the coveted F-16, which was also deployed in a supportive role, as a way of further destroying some of the drones which were ready to hit Ukraine's now fragile infrastructure. The question is how. It is incredibly hard for an aircraft to take down a ballistic or even a cruise missile. The process is not as straightforward as you might think. One of the first processes is to actually detect these missiles. This is done through a combination of various radar systems. Ground radar often detects them first, before air defenses are scrambled. Once the detection is made, various aircraft, often referred to as interceptors, or in this case, the Mirage 2000, will be given the go-ahead to take off. But what often happens is that various missiles being shot into Ukraine are at a very low altitude. The combination of this, and also low visibility over Ukraine, means that once the Mirages actually enter the sky, they often notice more missiles that radar might have missed. Before Ukraine had these Mirage 2000s, it would often be these low-altitude missiles or drones that hit the targets. However, the Mirage is also fitted with a radar system of its own, known as the Thales RDY, Radar Doppler Multi-Target, NALTATAI. This system can not only detect any airborne object, but it can scan large areas in the sky. This means it can assist in covering areas often missed by ground-based radar systems. It further has the ability to detect multiple targets while tracking them at the same time. But this doesn't solve the problem of the incoming missiles. Fortunately, sensor fusion then comes into play. This refers to the combination of all these sensors in extracting information. Combined with ground radar, it can give an approximate destination of the missiles, while adding a whole host of other information needed to destroy it. Once the missile has been tracked and a destination is determined, the next step is to get rid of it. But keep in mind that all of this happens in merely a few seconds before the fighter pilot is ready to engage. The pilot now needs to get into the optimal position, which can be tricky if you don't have an aircraft that is fast or even maneuverable enough to move with the missile. Luckily, both the F-16 and Mirage 2000 have been designed with speed and maneuverability as the most important features. Once the pilot is given the green light, he will maneuver the plane into position, often relying on a projected path of the missile before striking. Air-to-air missiles mounted on the side are then deployed, using this data to sense the missile. Once deployed, it takes only a couple of seconds to shoot them out of the air and render the missile absolutely useless. The missile itself is the modern MICA, which has its own radar and tracking systems. The pilot will choose the target and lock onto it. The missile relies on radar and various other forms of tracking, which will intercept the path of either the cruise missile or drone and hit its target to down the incoming ordnance. The problem with modern missiles is that they have been fitted with thrusters. These thrusters allow for maneuverability, which means that someone operating the missile can change its path or force it to follow decoy paths. Since there are hundreds of them incoming, pilots and air defenses often ignore those who seem to be heading for nothing and focus on those who are targeting more important infrastructure. However, using the thrusters, they can be disguised as bad missiles before changing course and hitting its target. This is often something that ground radar struggles with, but the Dassault Mirage is good at discerning. Secondly, Russia loves to use cruise missiles. Unlike ballistic missiles, these often have a single target. A cruise missile doesn't have the ability to maneuver in the air, which should make them easier to take out in theory. However, lower radar emissions, especially with newer missiles, can make it almost impossible for radar, especially ground radar, to detect. You see, when there are numerous incoming missiles, ground radar can become flooded, eventually only focusing on the drones, which have the biggest radar signature. This will inevitably allow the cruise missiles with their smaller signature to be impervious and hit their target. By deploying the Mirage 2000, with its highly sophisticated radar system, it becomes slightly easier to pinpoint these missiles, giving a larger array of coverage that will help with tracking. Another important reason for the use of the Mirage is the fact that it is not so easily fooled by electronic countermeasures. As we have mentioned earlier, these missiles can often change direction and throw off radar systems. But it not only focuses on deceiving radar systems, it also employs these countermeasures to misguide interceptor missiles that are often launched by aircraft. The Russians can even take this further by launching missiles within missiles. Much like the nuclear warhead, it can have a base cruise missile. Once the missile detects that it is being shot at, it will open up the front and deploy smaller missiles. Some of these could even reroute and target the aircraft that is trying to intercept it. This was the main reason for Ukraine demanding the F-16. Thanks to its highly advanced AN/ALQ-131 radar systems, it can essentially blind Russian missiles. These systems can serve as jammers, leaving a missile without a target and creating a sitting duck for countermeasures. Moreover, it will greatly reduce the amount of missiles who enter undetected. Thanks to a combination of all these features, Ukraine essentially nullified the March 7th attacks and greatly reduced the damage it had often faced when Russia turned towards such massive barrages of missiles and drones. However, the Mirage 2000 also serves in an offensive capacity. It might be a great aircraft to deploy defensively, but what it has done recently is more in an offensive capacity and can greatly stem the tide of the war. While using these aircraft in a defensive capacity is great, they can serve just as good a role when deployed offensively. With both Russia and Ukraine trying to gain as much leverage over the other as they possibly could, it is necessary for these Mirage 2000 configurations to offer Ukraine some kind of offensive capability. Upon receiving these aircraft, numerous reports from both Ukraine and Russia mentioned a contingent of the Ukrainian Air Force, flanked by the Mirage fighters, were spotted flying at a low altitude over the Crimea part of the Black Sea. Its target was the port of Temryuk, located near the Russian seaside city of Anapa, and close to the bridge, which creates a connection between Russia and Crimea. Near this city is a Russian oil refinery and various oil storage tanks. These are all owned by Rosneft, a state-run giant Russian energy conglomerate, which is one of the top energy producers in the country. Ukraine had managed to use its aircraft radar jamming technology, allowing 2 drones to enter the area and wreak havoc on Russian oil storage in the surrounding area. Video footage on social media shows large explosions with various loud noises resembling small arms fire. Meanwhile, this technique, used by Ukraine, with what Russia claims to be French assistance, was also used to hit 2 battleships in the Black Sea. Information regarding this is still very scarce, with neither confirming whether it was Ukrainian pilots or if they had been assisted by the French. Should it be revealed that France played a role in this, there will undoubtedly be an escalation, especially with the current situation between the European part of NATO and Russia being at odds. But can the Mirage be successfully used in an offensive capacity? While the defensive capabilities of the Mirage can easily be shown, it is the offensive capabilities that make all the difference on the battlefield. Unlike the F-16, which is not always compatible with various forms of European ordnance, the Mirage 2000 has been designed to be the perfect option to be used by Europe. It is highly compatible with all missiles and works in conjunction with various other forms of radar Ukraine is currently using. In conjunction with Ukrainian drones, this aircraft will make all the difference on the battlefield and give Ukraine small pockets of air dominance. But there is a problem. You see, unlike the F-16 and more modern fighters employed by the United States and Europe, The Mirage is mostly effective when used as a multi-role support fighter. It is not specifically designed to work well when it comes to individual operations. This is naturally where the F-16 can do wonders, and it will naturally be far more effective in one-on-one encounters. According to various reports, Ukraine is only receiving about 6 of these Mirage aircraft, which might not be enough to have a massive offensive impact on the battlefield. Even though they have been very effective in a limited capacity, despite their age, the bigger question is how the Russian air defense systems made this possible. First of all, Russia relies heavily on the S-300 and S-400 surface-to-air defense systems. These have been touted as the modern and most reliable air defense systems used by the Eastern Bloc. However, Israel had already proven them to be an utter failure following the Israeli strikes on Iran. Moreover, these systems also prove weak against some of the low-tech drones Ukraine is launching. While no one truly understands these Russian air defense systems, they do seem like an utter failure and might not be as useful as Russia had initially marketed them to be. This not only puts Russia and Iran at risk, but China also depends on these same systems, which could prove pivotal when China makes a move on Taiwan. But that is a topic for an entirely new video. For now, the Mirage 2000 aircraft are outclassing Russian defenses. Supplemented by these low-tech drones, they have the capacity to completely obliterate Russian infrastructure. But will Russia find an answer? Let us know in the comments below, and please make sure to like and subscribe to our channel for your daily military report.